Okay, so the one thing that I wanted to show a little bit more specifically was one of the lens effect that I got, the dirty lens effect, which it's one of those things that's been used more in games these days and even movies. And maybe it can get a little bit overdone and whatever, but it's one of those things. Uh, a few years ago it was lens flares, and then it became blooms, and I guess now it's the dirty lens. So yeah, it's just one of those effects. I actually really like it. I think it makes a big enough difference to the look of the scene that I just really wanted to get it in there. And um, I had some theories of actually how to accomplish it, and it involves blooming specifically because the effect itself is actually is kind of a specular effect. Um, and I had some theories. I've never really done it before, and I just had some theories on how I would accomplish it in either in compositing or something like that. And um, so I would apply the same theory to the UDK. The biggest problem I had was since it revolves around the bloom. I don't do obviously a physical specular highlight. You basically just use the bloom as to where you want the effect to happen. And because I couldn't find any way in the material itself to utilize the bloom directly, whether it's possible or not, I'm not sure. I'm not a programmer, so I can't go and write custom materials and things like that. I can just make use of what's there. So I couldn't find a clean way of getting that result, and I did look a little bit for tutorials, and I came across one. I'm not a huge tutorial guy. I kind of figure things out for myself. But this one I felt might be just a little bit more technical, and the tutorial I came across kind of worked. It worked maybe 25% of what it really needed to be, and it ultimately just added the image to the scene, and you can control how dark your scene is and things like that, so it doesn't always add everywhere. It kind of is a little bit more localized to the bright areas, but there was no way for me to get the exact result that's actually required to create the effect. So the method I came up with for this is it's actually fairly simple. The only catch is that I call it manual. It's a manual way of doing it. It won't just automatically get added wherever there's a bright bloom happening in the scene. Um, I actually make use of lens flares to place where I want the effect to happen, which ultimately would generally be on direct light sources or reflected light sources, and I can only do 50%. I can only do the direct light sources. I can't do the reflected light sources because I can't place, lens flares where uh, a bloom might end up, like on the character's sword, for instance. The sunlight glaring off the sword would, cause it. But so I've got my lens flare placed, and that's pretty much the way I use to create the effect. And you can see I've got for the effect itself, I've got if you look closely when I move around towards the edges where the light isn't, you can see the dirt on the lens. So I've got it there in general, and then maybe it's easy to see it like that. So you can see the dirts there on the lens, um, and then I just enhance it through through the lens flare, which is done directly in the material. So I'm not going to actually show the setup of the lens flare itself, but there's enough information about that stuff. But my material, all I ultimately do is, for that effect to happen, is I have my flare itself, which is just to create that extra bit of haze, which is to control where the blending happens, and then the texture itself, which is mapped with the screen position, and then tick on screen align, so the dirt sticks to the screen, and that's it. And then I've got some extra controls for multiplying it and things like that to push it either brighter or less bright or whatever. And that's basically how I do the effect. It's kind of a poor man's lens dirt effect. But I think it works really well, and it serves its purpose really well. And it's I've got it. Um, I've got it down the fire as well. And yeah. So that's pretty much that one.